Hey beauties, morning to you. I was looking at a friend of mine post. She took a clipping of the schools challenge quiz at the primary level, and there were two fundamental questions that were posited that were posed to the children. One was where there's a picture of the great, talented and gifted Muhammad Ali, and you hear the children whispering, "I don't know how that mean." And like that, when the whispers were so loud, you can hear what they're saying. It just sounded away. But needless to say, let's move on. And so they didn't know. They moved over to the next school. The children said, "No, thank you." They did, because I guess they didn't know who it is. The host proceeded to say, "That is Tiger Woods." Then there was a pause. I guess the people were flabbergasted. The judges and other people, like maybe, administrators or teachers, whomever it is that would have been in the audience. And I said to myself, she's an older person to the children. I can probably see with them not understanding because it seems as if certain kinds of history is not being promulgated as much in the schools for whatever reasons. Remember, the JTA president had indicated a few weeks ago that if they don't have specialized or expert teachers in certain areas, then the subjects would have to be dropped. And then the question was then asked by a media personnel, are some subjects dropped because you don't have any expert teachers? And he had said yes, some subjects will not be taught because they don't have the trained teachers in such area. So it makes no sense to teach something that is hairy fairy, wishy washy, or something that they will not learn the correct information on. And the host is fairly, a young adult or thereabout, who you would expect to know certain things. But I'm not even going to fault her on saying something incorrect. She was wrong and strong, and they had to correct her immediately because she herself really and truly didn't know. Now, what I'm concerned about is also when they had asked, it says Bible knowledge. What miracle did Jesus conduct at the wedding? And you heard a strong chorus of students barring about one. So one said opposite, one said the correct thing, but the multitude said, turn water into blood. She herself was so flabbergasted as a host that she said, "Excuse me, can you repeat?" I don't know if she said that because she heard two answers coming out. Because one bright young miss had the correct answer. She said, Jesus turned water into wine. And the others, they're saying blood. The majority saying blood. And that is an indicative or an indicator that majority is not always right. This one lone voice said the correct thing, but because the blood was so strong the first time, and then she had to ask them to repeat it to see if they would have actually repeated the answer. They did. So she had to go with what the first answer was. Although the young miss was correct, but she was so fearful. They almost made her doubt her correct answer, that she said it with a very faint voice the second time around. And my question to the teachers, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a trained teacher. I don't understand the whole curriculum, how it is that you move children from, for example, I wouldn't necessarily say only illiteracy to literacy or dunce to bright. I don't really like the word dunce, but it's a language that people seem to be using these days. So for me to communicate effectively, I'm just going to use it for that purpose. I'm assuming that the basic phonics, the ability to read and write and to understand the alphabets, so that once you understand that, that also is like a springboard into critical thinking or mental ability. That skill that is now being harnessed in the children, the basic phonics. So once they do that and the brain is trained, then right away, once history is being taught, then the brain waves will be able to comprehend it. It goes into the muscle memory, and they all automatically now will know the correct answer. Something is very much off for the children, for majority of the children who answered to say that Jesus turned water into blood. That I found very disturbing. It is either the incorrect Bible knowledge is being taught or nothing is taught, and they just decide to think on something that they feel because the blood is associated with Jesus. We'll talk about Jesus and the blood. He shed his blood on the cross for you and I, for the remission of sins or sin. There's something that is not adding up. I have never seen anything like this in my life in this 21st century. Beautiful people, to see people are regressing in terms of Bible knowledge. Now, you might think that religious education is not important. Let me correct you there. A lot of what you see happening in our world today, in terms of the wars, not just rumors of wars, but the wars and the different social happenings, when you check it is linked back to biblical history. When you trace it, it is linked back to that. So biblical history, biblical knowledge is key. It is important, even if you choose not to become a Christian or a child of God, however you want to dub it. But it is very much vital to our today's society from a social perspective, not just a spiritual or religious perspective, if you understand what I'm saying to you. And it means that the older generation to that young one also needs some training, because that host called the late great and venerable Muhammad Ali and said Tiger Woods. She didn't know. She really didn't know. It probably is incumbent upon her to go and do research. I would have, if I'm in her position and I realize that, oh my God, I realized I made a big blunder, was wrong, bold and strong, in my wrong state. It means, therefore, I need to get more reading done. So I can't just sound very refined, hosting a program, but not knowledgeable. Because that is also the reality with a lot of people. They may speak refined, they sound well, the words and the language are there, but in terms of the correct information and the knowledge is not there. And I must reiterate the reality that majority is not always right in a number of cases, in a lot of cases. I won't say most, but in a lot of cases. Because you heard a resounding, clanging cymbal, let me put it that way, when they said Jesus turned water into blood. I found it, and my heart broke, because I'm saying that there is a disconnect with either the correct information being taught in the schools, or because it's not really taught. The information is faint. Their children are confused. They're just associated with the blood. And Jesus said, turn water into, okay, it must be blood then, because it's a red substance. Perhaps religious education, Bible knowledge, real Bible knowledge needs to be mandatory, just as how English language and mathematics are mandatory. It needs to be, because, as I said, you can't separate the religious, and I'm not talking about religiosity, something that is just, ritualistic. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about spiritual laws that govern our natural laws. Things that happened in Bible days that the Bible has promulgated and talked about. It is because of that. It is indicative of that. It is a stemming of that. So perhaps it probably needs to become mandatory as well. And history. I didn't like history, to be honest with you, because I think my teacher was a strange one at the time. I really didn't like it. And as I got older, I said, what, Toni-Ann, you have to start to delve into knowing history for you to understand how to move forward. It's key. It is vital, really, to move forward. We've often heard it back in the day. To move forward, you really need to know what took place in the early days for you to know how to charter your course. COURSE. When you talk about something is rough and coarse, it is COARSE. I have to put that in because, I did a video on the off to, OF space TO versus have to. There's no such thing as off to. It is have to. It just came to my mind and I decided to put it here. There's no such thing as off to. It's not grammatically correct. There's nothing you get from it. It is just wrong. It's like somebody saying 1 + 1 is 11. It's just wrong. There's nothing more than it just being incorrect. It is have to. HAVE space TO. My heart breaks because I know you have good teachers out there. I faced them. I had them. I don't know what's happening now. I really don't know if they're... But I know. The treatment that many of them are getting are not good. And also, similarly, some are not properly trained. So, Guys, follow me on TikTok. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please share this message.